Hey YouTube, it's Tay back with another video. So I got a comment on my college mental health and overcoming academic suspension video. The comment was by Jim Ma. And basically she just said, what did you do during your suspension and how do you explain your suspension to your acquaintances? I just finished my freshman year, totally screwed it, and next year I'll still be a freshman. Never would I admit to being suspended to random acquaintances because they'll be juniors next year and we were in the same year. I still feel horrible, but it's nice to know that you're making these videos. Thank you. I haven't found anyone that I could talk to that's going through the same thing. So I just want to start off by saying thank you for watching my videos, and I'm glad that you can relate to them and that they're helping you. To answer your first question, what did you do during your suspension and how do I explain it to my acquaintances? So during my suspension, I came back home to Dallas. Sorry if I'm not paying attention, I'm working on paper. But I came back home to Dallas. I enrolled in community college classes just to try to grade replace. So like, some of my basic courses like biology and things like that, just to try to knock off those grades and replace them with higher grades, in which, I accomplished. I replaced most of the classes that I made below a C on or C's on, and replaced those with B's, A's, and the class that I made a D or F in, I replaced it with a C or a B. So that's the first thing I did. I really tried not to beat myself up over it. And what I mean is, a lot of people when they go on suspension, what they typically tend to do is they doubt themselves. They start to get inside their own minds and say, maybe college isn't for me, maybe I can't do this, I'm not ready, things like that. And they just kind of like beat themselves up over it, and they psych themselves out. So my saying is, it happened, it's over with, what can I do from there? How do I move on? So when I first got put on suspension, I did take a day or two and I beat myself up. I hurt, I cried. I did have those thoughts of thinking, maybe college isn't for me. Maybe I need to just find an alternate way to get to where I want to be in life. And then after those few days of being in my feelings about it, I moved on. I started to make a plan. I put on my game helmet and I was like, okay, so what are we about to do? So that's when I started to reach out to different people, and they told me, well, maybe you need to apply to community college and just take a few classes until you can get your GPA back up and then transfer from there. So I did that, and right now I'm at South Plains Junior College, which is where I transferred to from Dallas County Community College District System, whatever. So I'm here now. My grades are doing extremely better. One of the things that I say influenced my suspension was the fact that, like I said, I am from Texas and I went all the way to West Virginia, and I feel like being so far away from home just kind of took a toll on me. It was definitely a learning experience to learn how to, function on my own and be 100% dependent and not being able to rely on family and my mom and things like that. So I typically don't beat myself up about going to West Virginia to receive my education, because it taught me so many personal things. I took so many personal things from it. I connected with different parts of my family that I never met before, like my whole dad's side of the family. I never met them, and I connected with them being down there. So it was some major pluses. It also taught me time management and organization. Going through suspension, I've realized one of the biggest things that went into me being suspended was the fact that I didn't manage my time and I was not organized enough for college. There is a big gap between high school and college, and people typically say, college is fun, it's so easy, da da da. But if you are not mentally prepared for it, if you can't sit down and schedule your day and say, at this time I need to do this, at this time I need to do this, I have to remember these deadlines and I have to meet them, and this is what I have to do each day to get to that deadline, then you are going to end up on academic suspension. Another question that you asked me was how am I so open with my acquaintances when explaining my suspension? Um, to me, academic suspension is something a lot of people can relate to. Not even academic suspension, like being placed on academic warning, failing classes, dropping classes, things like that. Um, a lot of college students can relate to that. So it's not really hard for me to explain that to them. Most of the time, it's just me trying to educate people like, hey, you really need to take this serious. Like organization, time management, you need to really, come hard with those because if not, you're going to end up like me. So that's why I stress it a lot to random people. Like I can go up to a random person and let them know like, hey, I was supposed to be a junior. I'm a freshman, or so you really need to get on a track with where you're going, and you need to take control of your life and what you do, or you're going to end up like me. um, and like I said, I am a freshman, but that is only because I switched my major and I transferred back to Texas. So if I would have stayed in West Virginia, I would have been a sophomore in between my sophomore and junior year. But since I came back to Texas, only so many of my credits transferred over, and then I switched my major, so I pretty much started on a whole new leaf. The only classes that really went into my major now were my basics, and I was not finished with all of my basic courses, so that's why I'm a freshman. I'm supposed to be a junior, but hey, it happened. Um, Another thing you said was, never would I ever admit that I was suspended to random acquaintances because they'll be juniors next year and that we were in the same year. I think starting off, it was very tough for me to just be open about it. Like, hey, I was suspended from college. I definitely did bite my tongue and, just close my mouth around a lot of people. Um, but then I started to accept it. Once I started to accept it, and once my life started to come back together, once I started putting those pieces back together, it was easier for me to just be open and tell people, like, yeah, I was suspended, but hey, I'm on a path now that I'm doing amazing. I never thought that I can be where I am now, but I definitely overcame such a huge obstacle. So I think that with time and you just putting the pieces together, you definitely will get to that day where you can start to be open with people about it. It's not something to be embarrassed about. Like I said, a lot of people can relate to being suspended. A lot of people can relate to being put on academic warning, probation, and things like that. Um, and how to overcome it, like what to work from there. Like I said, just study, get tutors. If a class is hard, um, typically what I do is the first 2 weeks of the class, I try to, see if I can process the information on my own, and how I'm grasping the information. And within those 2 weeks, if I feel like, I can't do this, I will go get a tutor. I will go to study halls. I will go to whatever I have to go to. I will go to the professor's office hours and sit there and ask them questions if I have to, if I'm not grasping the information. Another thing is, like I said, I manage my time. I specifically have points of time in a day where it's dedicated to studying, or it's dedicated to doing classwork, or it's dedicated to doing this around my classes or whatnot. And then I have my social time where I can go work out, or I can go be social with my friends and go out to eat and, have a movie night or whatever. Um, so, you just have to find out a plan that works for you. I would definitely recommend grade replacing, retaking classes to get different grades. Um, I hope I answered your questions. And if anybody else is out there watching, I hope that you can relate to this. You can pull information from this, and let me know down below, like, what is your suspension story, or can you relate to anything that I was talking about, or anything. Ask me questions. I'm always willing to answer them, and I will try to get back to you as soon as possible. And yeah, have a good day, guys.